The National Desk, America's News Now.
A contentious hearing today on Capitol Hill as Attorney General Merrick Garland faces off against GOP lawmakers. We go inside the emotional back and forth.
Yes or no? The idea that someone with my family background would discriminate against any religion is so outrageous, so absurd.
Mr. Attorney General, it was your FBI that did this.
Then the price at the pump is going up again, where it's highest and how prices are impacting the overall economy. And a government shutdown gets a day closer as the plan to move forward remains unclear.
With all due respect to my conservative colleagues, let them go explain why they don't support that. It's completely inexplicable. I think it's indefensible.
This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. Attorney General Merrick Garland spent hours being interrogated by House GOP members on the Judiciary Committee. The tense hearing focusing on the fairness, or as critics allege, lack of it, by the Justice Department in light of high-profile prosecutions involving Donald Trump and also President Biden's family. Let's get right to Chief Political Correspondent Scott Thuman, who has both sides.
Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury?
The nation's top law enforcement official, Attorney General Merrick Garland, in a congressional lion's den Wednesday, accused by Republicans of running a two-tiered system of justice.
They see the DOJ, of course, aggressively prosecuting President Biden's chief political rival, Mr. Trump, while at the same time, they see slow walking and special treatment given to the president's son. That's just a fact that everybody can see with their own two eyes.
I am not the president's lawyer. I will add, I am not Congress's prosecutor.
They allege Garland intentionally took so long with Hunter Biden's tax evasion investigation that the statute of limitations ran out, essentially erasing the case. Donald Trump's biggest offenders also going after Jack Smith, Garland's special counsel, and Garland's appointment of David Weiss, who they say has been soft on Hunter Biden.
And he's the one you appointed to pursue the charges that could implicate Joe Biden. That leads me to only two explanations, either corruption or incompetence. So which is it?
Mr. Weiss was the Republican-appointed United States attorney appointed by President Trump.
Do you at least see the obvious double standard?
Democrats mostly defending him.
You are decent. They are not. You are fair. They are not.
The reputation for the Justice Department is on the line when they have these incredible high-profile investigations. The public needs to have confidence that the DOJ is following the law and the facts, that they're not prosecuting somebody for politics.
All of this setting the stage for next Thursday, when the House will hold its first impeachment inquiry hearing of President Biden. And reports are now that Republicans want to subpoena Hunter Biden as well as the president's brother. Amira?
And Scott, I understand Democrats weren't totally enthused with Garland here either. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, there was some criticism on that front, specifically with Hunter Biden's case, saying that it's rare that someone would be charged with having a gun while also using drugs, unless that gun was used in the commission of a crime. So you had Merrick Garland really getting it from both sides today.
Scott Thuman live in Washington, D.C. for us. Thanks for that reporting. The United Auto Workers strike grows. This time, it's not just the big three dealing with a work stoppage. In Tuscaloosa, Alabama, 190 workers walked off the job this morning at a plant that makes front axles for Mercedes vehicles as they, too, fight for a new compensation package of wages and benefits. It comes as we hear from GM President Mark Rouse blasting the UAW in a recent op-ed, saying the union's demands are untenable and unsustainable for the company, indicating that a deal is still far off. Both Ford and General Motors were due back at the negotiating table, though a White House team expected to travel to Detroit to help mediate has canceled its trip. Sean Fain has repeatedly opposed the administration getting involved. All of it comes as GM and Stellantis announced layoffs. Stellantis laying off 370 additional workers because of the strikes. 68 had already been let go from the Toledo plant that has 5,500 workers striking since Friday. GM just laid off about 2,000 of its workers. Ford laying off 600 employees at the Wayne assembly plant. that's now on strike and has plans to lay off an additional 2,000 if strikes continue. Sean Fain, meantime, says more strikes are set to begin Friday at noon unless serious progress to a new deal is made. In the past week, public support for the union has grown. We're just getting this information in. Among all American adults, 54% back the UAW. That's a 3% increase since the strikes began. That includes 52% of non-union members, jumping into the majority when compared to last week. Meantime, in Canada, major strikes against automakers have been averted. Unifor, the union that represents Canadian auto workers, reached a tentative labor deal with Ford late last night. The new contract inked just hours before the deadline yesterday. The two sides had previously extended talks. Unifor's members still need to approve the deal that will keep 5,000 workers on the job. Not clear at this point how that agreement impacts the U.S. negotiations. Let's turn now to the economy. Interest rates, they will hold steady. The Federal Reserve today moving to keep rates at 5.25% to 5.5%, but added that they don't expect a very long pause here.
We are committed to achieving and sustaining a stance of monetary policy that is sufficiently restrictive to bring inflation down to our 2% goal over time.
Fed Chair Jerome Powell says rates could increase again before the end of the year. Analysts believe simply signaling a future rate hike might help the Fed achieve its goal of lowering inflation. Rates right now at a 22-year high. A heightened focus as forecasters zero in on this area right here off the eastern United States coast. We're talking about a potential storm that's going to bring scores of rain to that area, mostly to the Carolinas and then up the East Coast. The biggest wild card right now, how far inland the rain and how high these winds are going to spread in terms of moving inward. And we're looking at that disturbance and how it's going to potentially acquire storm-like characteristics. The other is a tropical wave. This is a disturbance right near the west coast of Africa, which has a 70% chance of developing in the next 7 days. We're going to know a whole lot more about this as we inch closer to the end of the week. And of course, we'll bring you the very latest just as soon as we get it. Meantime, today, a federal judge has denied a request from Hunter Biden to appear over video at his first court appearance on felony gun charges. The president's son was indicted last week on 3 counts related to firearm possession and drug use. He will have to show up in a court in Delaware for his hearing on Tuesday. And a Georgia judge is letting lawyers for 2 of former President Trump's co-defendants to interview the grand jurors who returned the RICO indictment. Lawyers for Kenneth Chesebro and Sidney Powell raised concerns that it was not, quote, properly returned. The court will provide the list of approved questions. And let's turn now to the border, where thousands more migrants have amassed crossing into Texas from Mexico, beginning to really overwhelm border agents there. According to the Texas Department of Public Safety, a large migrant caravan crossed the Rio Grande, and really close to 4,000 are being held there under a bridge at Eagle Pass. Mexico says more are on the way. We'll continue to track developments and bring you the very latest. A judge has revoked bail for the Philadelphia officer charged in the deadly shooting of a motorist. Mark Dial now back in custody. He had turned himself in on a criminal warrant and was released on a $500,000 bail earlier this month. The state constitution prohibits bail, however, for offenses carrying a life sentence. Dial faces first-degree murder and other charges. A preliminary hearing now scheduled for next Tuesday. A New England Patriots fan who died in the stands on Sunday did not have a traumatic injury from a fight. This comes from preliminary autopsy results that suggest Dale Mooney died from an underlying medical issue. The fight, caught here on camera, was between him and a fan of the opposing Miami Dolphins team. Due to public drug use of fentanyl and other illegal substances, Seattle will soon begin to enforce Washington state's law of criminalizing possession of drugs. The state law had gone into effect July 1st, but Seattle did not pass it at that time. But a 6-3 city council vote changes that decision. And a final chapter in the Flint water criminal prosecutions. Today, the Michigan Supreme Court squashed a last chance effort to revive criminal charges against 7 people in the Flint water scandal. The High Court has declined to hear a number of state appeals that previously found prosecutors improperly indicted a series of former state and city Flint officials. The prosecutions stemmed from the 2014 contamination crisis that exposed tens of thousands of Flint residents to dangerous levels of lead and caused outbreaks of Legionnaire disease, which killed 12 people. An Alabama band director says his arrest was uncalled for after police subdued him with a stun gun at a high school football game. Police asked Johnny Mims to stop the music after last Thursday's game was over. When the band kept playing, police placed Mims in custody. That's when they say he pushed an officer. Mims says that's not true, and that body camera video that hasn't been released will prove it.
There are things that happened in that game should have never happened. The students should have never seen me tase. Those things should have never happened. I was not trying to be defiant to the police department. Again, I was just trying to do my job, which was previously established before the end of the game.
Mims is charged with disorderly conduct, harassment, and resisting arrest. He's been placed on leave pending the school district's investigation. No disciplinary action against officers have yet been announced. And coming up, global oil prices are rising. We're going to explain the impacts in America that go far beyond prices at the pump. Then the type of cheese that's being recalled because of a choking hazard. Plus, it is Suicide Prevention Month, and a new study reveals the lifestyle changes that could greatly lower depression risk. We are back in just 90 seconds. We are one day closer to a government shutdown, and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is still struggling to get his conference on the same page. With opposition in his own party, his options are limited, but he's down to possibly tossing all conservative demands into one CR, working with Democrats or doing nothing. The Senate will likely gut whatever comes out of the second option. For his part, the Speaker says it's business as usual.
The members are already in meeting. I think we're making some progress. We made some progress last night. Look, it's not September 30th. The game is not over, so we continue to work through it. And I've been at this place many times before, and we're going to solve this problem.
Congressional leaders do have until the end of the month, but it's worth noting it will take a few days to pass legislation out of the Senate and then reach a consensus if legislation differs between the two chambers before getting a bill to President Biden's desk. Thousands of LGBTQ veterans who were kicked out of the military because of their sexuality could see their honor restored. The Defense Department plans to review records of veterans who served under Don't Ask, Don't Tell and recommend their discharge be upgraded to honorable. This expands their access to the full slate of veterans benefits. The DoD says the military fell short in correcting the harms of its past policies against LGBTQ service members.
So we encourage everyone to visit the new webpage to share it widely, and for any veteran who believes their less than honorable discharge was caused by those wrongful laws and policies, to apply and help the nation keep righting these wrongs.
The webpage to apply can be found at defense.gov. Gas prices are creeping up yet again. They're quickly nearing $6 a gallon in California. The average there jumping 31 cents just over the past week. And nationally, prices increased this week to $3.88 a gallon, the highest this year, according to AAA. Luckily, some experts believe gas prices might be at or close to peak. That would be nice. Meanwhile, the cost of oil around the world has been rising, and that has had impacts in the United States that go much further than what we see at the pump. National correspondent Atra Al-Nashar explains.
Decisions made about oil production across the world sending ripple effects through the United States and making life hard for the central bankers whose mandate is to bring inflation down.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell announcing Wednesday they're holding interest rates steady after a marathon of hikes that sent mortgage rates north of 7%. Now they wait and watch to see how it impacts people's spending, hoping it slows down, bringing prices down with it.
Prices are still going up, just not as fast as they were.
Greg McBride, chief financial analyst at Bankrate, explains the inflation picture is changing due to a rapid rise in oil and gas prices. The national average for a gallon of regular was $3.87 on Wednesday, with oil prices hovering above $90 per barrel.
And gasoline prices by themselves were responsible for more than half of the increase in the consumer price index during the month of August,
threatening to spill over into the cost of other goods and services.
Saudi Arabia and Russia's decision to extend oil production cuts through the end of the year, on top of other OPEC Plus cuts through the end of next year, have analysts worried oil could reach $100 per barrel. Here's Chevron CEO Mike Wirth.
Supply is tightening, inventories are drawing. These things happen gradually. You can see it building, and so I think the trends would suggest that we're certainly on our way.
This week, Saudi Energy Minister Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman pushed back on accusations the kingdom is trying to jack up prices to bolster its economy. Back in the U.S., domestic oil production is expected to hit record highs this year and next, according to Energy Department data. But oil is priced on a global market, keeping gas prices at home high and a hot topic in the 2024 race.
Our target goal is 2025. We want that gas at $2 a gallon.
Current market forces keeping that goal out of reach. In Washington, I'm Atra Al-Nashar for the National Desk, America's News Now.
A nasal spray equivalent to an EpiPen has been denied approval by the FDA. ARS Pharma's product called Neffy would have been available by prescription to treat severe allergic reactions. The FDA said they need more evidence first. The company can conduct more studies and apply for approval again. Cracking down on fraud, fake listings are now a major problem for the rental service Airbnb. The company says it's removed 59,000 fake listings and stopped another 157,000 from getting through. It plans to start verifying all listings in its top 5 markets later this year with the help of artificial intelligence. Starting in February, users will see designated icons on verified properties. And Kraft is recalling around 83,000 cases of American cheese, all of this because of a choking hazard. The company said individually wrapped Kraft singles could still have a thin strip of plastic film on the slice after the wrapper has been removed. It said there were several complaints, with 6 people saying they choked or gagged on it. Kraft says it has fixed the problem. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter most to you. We're taking pulse of America. And we start with a Florida doctor sharing advancements in technology for detecting prostate cancer.
We spoke with Dr. Nathan Tennyson, the medical director of radiation oncology at Jupiter Medical Center. He says once men reach the age of 50, that's really the time to have a conversation with their primary care doctor to determine if it's time to be screened. Now, screening for this type of cancer, according to Dr. Tennyson, is done through a regular blood test. And because of effective screening and advances in modern imaging technology, it's usually caught before it spreads.
Now what typically happens is the PSA goes up, you get what's called a multi-parametric MRI. It's a very special MRI, and you can actually see inside the prostate. And instead of randomly picking where we're going to biopsy in the prostate, they can go exactly where a spot in the prostate that looks suspicious.
Starting at the root of the problem, Dr. Tammy Grace Steele started the National Women in Agriculture Association in 2008.
I saw the need, especially in the minority community, starting with my own family.
The organization started on Martin Luther King Avenue in Oklahoma City with a community garden and agriculture initiatives for mothers and children. Now with over 90 chapters worldwide.
Eradicating food desert issues. We are creating jobs.
Food desert has become a common term to describe low-income communities, often communities of color, where there's little to no access to healthy, affordable food. With a congressional vote on the Farm Bill coming by the end of the year to invest in agricultural programs, her group is marching on Washington, D.C., calling for change from the Biden administration.
I never in a million years dreamed that anybody had access to them or would access them.
In Florida, a trial is underway after two tech employees were accused of spying on a Palm Beach couple through home security cameras. Prosecutors say the employees from Ask the Advisors logged into the system hundreds of times to watch live and recorded video of the woman or the couple together. But the defense says the homeowner had signed a contract that gave the employees access to troubleshoot the cameras remotely, even on nights and weekends. Coming up, it is Suicide Prevention Month, and a new study reveals the lifestyle changes that could greatly lower depression risk. We'll be right back. September is National Suicide Prevention Month, and while suicide is a plague that impacts all groups in the United States, it is especially a growing crisis within the veteran community. According to the latest numbers from the VA's Suicide Prevention Annual Report, the suicide rate for veterans has increased from 23 per 100,000 in 2001 to nearly 32 per 100,000 in 2020. That blue line there, that's a 60% increase in the last 20 years, and it comes as the suicide rate for non-veterans has remained at roughly the same level. Retired Navy fighter pilot Matthew Buckley and founder of No Fallen Heroes Foundation explains the importance of awareness for all veterans.
So if we can save just one veteran or first responder or their family member, it's absolutely incredible. Healing is possible. We can prevent these folks from taking their own lives.
And of course, we know depression doesn't discriminate. Although there is some good news, it turns out small changes in your lifestyle could dramatically lower your risk. And medical reporter Liz Bonis shares what's on that list.
Hey there, everybody. This new study says a few simple habits could reduce the risk of a diagnosis of depression, actually cut that risk in half. The study looked at data on what are called depressive episodes reported from the UK Biobank. They identified 7 happiness habits, you might call them. People who did at least 5 or more of them cut depression risk by 57%. They included getting at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night, exercising regularly, eating more of a Mediterranean or plant-based diet, limiting alcohol, not smoking, cutting back on screen time, and building friendships and social connections, especially through hobbies or activities you enjoy. The ladies at this Kentucky-based sewing group at Calvary Baptist Church, called Needle and Thread, say they know this makes a difference.
It's a lot of fun to be in a group of ladies who are of like mind, but especially you just have an outlet, a resource.
Well, these habits won't likely eliminate depression. Researchers did find that even in people with genetic links to depression, these healthy habits still held up. As always, if you or someone you love is in crisis, you can call or text 988. It will direct you to local resources. These are available 24/7 in your area. I'm medical reporter Liz Bonis. Back to you.
And coming up, we take a deeper look into a celebration of life that is out of this world. One Ohio family celebrating the life of a recently departed member like no one else because the final burial won't be on Earth. Larry James Rabb will be honored and celebrated by his family as they send his cremated remains on the first ever deep space memorial flight made possible by the company Celestis when it launches in December. His wife Sharon recalled one of their first arguments as a couple as a reason for the decision.
And he said, well, if I had a chance, I'd go. And I stood there for a moment and I said, are you saying that you would leave me and go into space? I've been married a month. And he said, well, if I had a chance to go into space, I'd go.
And so he finally gets his chance for the trip of a lifetime. That does it for this edition of the National Desk. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Amira David. Have a wonderful night.